Military History. The Battle of Hastings. Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Saturday, May 31st, 2025. As we do every Saturday, we're exploring a significant military engagement that shaped the course of history. Today, we turn our attention to the Battle of Hastings, fought on October 14, 1066, one of the most consequential battles in English history. This single day of combat fundamentally altered the trajectory of England, introducing Norman rule, transforming the English language, reshaping social structures, and establishing connections between England and continental Europe that would influence centuries of political and cultural development. What makes the Battle of Hastings particularly significant is how it demonstrates the far-reaching consequences that can flow from a single military engagement. The Norman victory didn't just change rulers, it transformed an entire civilization, creating the foundation for medieval England and establishing patterns of governance, architecture, and culture that persist to this day. So let's explore this pivotal battle, examining the succession crisis that led to the conflict, the military strategies employed by both sides, the dramatic day of fighting that decided England's fate, and the profound changes that followed William the Conqueror's victory. The Battle of Hastings emerged from a complex succession crisis following the death of Edward the Confessor, King of England, on January 5, 1066. Edward died childless, leaving no clear heir and creating a power vacuum that would be filled through military conquest rather than peaceful succession. The primary claimants to the English throne each based their case on different forms of legitimacy. Harold Godwinson, Earl of Wessex and the most powerful noble in England, claimed that Edward had designated him as heir on his deathbed. The Witenagemot, the Anglo-Saxon Council of Nobles, supported Harold's claim and crowned him king on January 6, 1066, just one day after Edward's death. However, William, Duke of Normandy, had his own claim to the English throne. William asserted that Edward the Confessor, his cousin, had promised him the succession years earlier. More controversially, William claimed that Harold Godwinson himself had sworn an oath to support William's claim to the throne, an oath allegedly made when Harold was shipwrecked on the Norman coast in 1064. A third claimant, Harold Hardrada of Norway, based his claim on an agreement between his predecessor and an earlier English king, arguing that the Norwegian crown had legitimate rights to the English throne. This multiplicity of claims virtually guaranteed that the succession would be decided by warfare rather than negotiation. Harold Godwinson's position as king was immediately precarious. He faced potential invasions from both Normandy to the south and Norway to the north, forcing him to divide his attention and resources between multiple threats. The timing of these invasions would prove crucial to the eventual outcome. The first invasion came from Harold Hardrada, who landed in northern England in September 1066 with a substantial Norwegian army. Harold Godwinson demonstrated remarkable military leadership by rapidly marching his forces north and defeating the Norwegian invasion at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066. Both Harold Hardrada and Harold Godwinson's brother Tostig, who had allied with the Norwegians, were killed in this battle. However, Harold's victory in the north came at a significant cost. His army was exhausted from the rapid march and the hard-fought battle. Moreover, just 3 days after Stamford Bridge, William of Normandy landed on the southern coast of England with approximately 7,000 men, including heavy cavalry, archers, and infantry. William's timing was nearly perfect. Harold's forces were far from the landing site, weakened by recent combat, and unable to contest the Norman landing. William established his base at Hastings and began systematically devastating the surrounding countryside, a strategy designed to force Harold into battle before he could fully recover his strength. Harold faced a critical strategic decision. He could wait for his forces to recover and for additional troops to arrive, potentially allowing William to consolidate his position and receive reinforcements from Normandy. Alternatively, he could march south immediately and attempt to defeat William before the Norman position became unassailable. Harold chose the aggressive approach, perhaps influenced by his recent success against the Norwegians. He rapidly marched his army south, covering approximately 250 miles in just over 2 weeks. This remarkable feat of medieval logistics brought Harold's forces to the vicinity of Hastings by October 13, 1066. The two armies that faced each other on October 14, 1066, represented different military traditions and tactical approaches. Harold's army consisted primarily of housecarls, professional warriors equipped with long-handled axes and round shields, and the Fyrd, a militia of free peasants armed with spears, axes, and whatever armor they could afford. The Anglo-Saxon army was entirely infantry, reflecting the traditional English way of war. William's army, by contrast, was a combined arms force that included heavy cavalry, infantry, and archers. The Norman cavalry, consisting of knights on horseback equipped with lances, represented a relatively new military technology that had proven highly effective in continental warfare. The inclusion of a substantial number of archers gave William's army significant tactical flexibility. The battle began early on October 14, 1066, on Senlac Hill, about 7 miles northwest of Hastings. Harold's army occupied a strong defensive position on the ridge, forming a shield wall that presented a formidable obstacle to any attacking force. The Anglo-Saxon position was nearly impregnable to frontal assault, but it offered little flexibility for tactical maneuvering. William's initial attacks focused on weakening the Anglo-Saxon position through archery and cavalry charges. The Norman archers opened the battle, sending volleys of arrows into the densely packed Anglo-Saxon ranks. However, the effectiveness of this archery was limited by the Anglo-Saxon shields and the uphill angle of fire. The first Norman cavalry charges proved equally unsuccessful. The Anglo-Saxon shield wall held firm, and the Norman horses could not penetrate the line of spears and axes. Several Norman attacks were repulsed with significant casualties, and at one point rumors spread through the Norman ranks that William himself had been killed. William's response to this crisis demonstrated remarkable leadership. He removed his helmet and rode along his battle lines, showing his men that he was alive and still commanding. This action restored Norman morale and prevented a potential collapse of his forces. The turning point in the battle came when William employed a tactical innovation, the feigned retreat. Norman cavalry pretended to flee in disorder, drawing portions of the Anglo-Saxon army down from their defensive position in pursuit. When the pursuing Anglo-Saxons became separated from their main force, the Norman cavalry turned and attacked them on more favorable terms. This tactic was repeated several times throughout the day, gradually wearing down the Anglo-Saxon position. Each feigned retreat drew more defenders away from the shield wall, weakening Harold's overall position and creating opportunities for the Norman cavalry to exploit. The final phase of the battle saw William concentrate his attacks on the center of the Anglo-Saxon line, where Harold and his household warriors were positioned. Late in the afternoon, a combination of arrow fire and cavalry charges finally broke through the Anglo-Saxon defenses. Harold Godwinson was killed in this final assault, though the exact circumstances of his death remain disputed. With their king dead and their position compromised, the remaining Anglo-Saxon forces began to retreat. Some fought a rear-guard action that continued into the evening, but organized resistance effectively ended with Harold's death. The Battle of Hastings was over, and William of Normandy had won the English crown. The immediate aftermath of the battle was crucial to William's ultimate success. Rather than immediately marching on London, William spent several weeks consolidating his position and demonstrating his strength. He captured Dover and Canterbury, securing his lines of communication with Normandy, and gradually moved toward London, accepting submissions from English nobles along the way. The psychological impact of Harold's death and the Norman victory was enormous. Many Anglo-Saxon nobles concluded that resistance was futile and submitted to William rather than continue fighting. By Christmas 1066, William felt secure enough to be crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey, though it would take several more years to fully establish Norman control over the entire country. The Battle of Hastings had profound and lasting consequences that extended far beyond the immediate military victory. The Norman conquest introduced fundamental changes to English society, government, culture, and language that would shape England's development for centuries to come. Perhaps the most visible change was the transformation of England's ruling class. William replaced the Anglo-Saxon nobility with Norman and other continental European nobles, fundamentally altering the character of English leadership. This change brought new forms of government, legal systems, and administrative practices that would form the foundation of medieval English governance. The introduction of Norman French as the language of the court and administration had enormous cultural consequences. While English continued to be spoken by the common people, Norman French became the language of power, law, and literature. This linguistic division would eventually contribute to the development of Middle English, which incorporated substantial French vocabulary into the Germanic base of Old English. Norman architectural styles transformed the English landscape. The Normans began an extensive program of castle building, introducing the stone keep and other fortification innovations that had proven effective in continental warfare. Norman ecclesiastical architecture, characterized by massive stone construction and Romanesque styling, replaced the smaller wooden Anglo-Saxon churches with magnificent cathedrals that still dominate many English cities today. The Norman conquest also strengthened England's connections with continental Europe. William retained his Norman territories, making the English king a significant player in French politics. This continental connection would influence English foreign policy for centuries, contributing to conflicts like the 100 Years' War and shaping England's European relationships. The feudal system introduced by the Normans reorganized English society along continental lines. Land tenure became based on military service owed to overlords, creating a hierarchical system of obligations that differed significantly from Anglo-Saxon social arrangements. This transformation affected everything from military organization to agricultural practices. The battle also demonstrated the military superiority of combined arms tactics over traditional infantry formations. The Norman success at Hastings encouraged the adoption of heavy cavalry throughout Europe and contributed to the development of medieval warfare techniques that would dominate battlefields for centuries. From a broader historical perspective, the Battle of Hastings represents a crucial moment in the development of medieval Europe. The Norman conquest connected England more closely with continental political and cultural developments, contributing to the emergence of a more unified European civilization during the High Middle Ages. The battle also illustrates the role of contingency in historical development. Had Harold defeated William at Hastings, or had William's invasion been delayed or unsuccessful, the subsequent development of English and European history would have been dramatically different. The Norman conquest was not inevitable, and its success depended on a complex interaction of timing, leadership, military tactics, and chance. Archaeological evidence continues to provide new insights into the battle. The traditional site of the battle at Battle Abbey has been extensively studied, though some historians argue for alternative locations. Recent archaeological work has revealed details about medieval weapons, armor, and battlefield tactics that help us understand how the battle was actually fought. The Battle of Hastings has also had a lasting impact on English national identity and historical memory. The Norman conquest is often seen as the last successful invasion of England, and the battle has become a symbol of historical transformation and the resilience of English culture in the face of foreign conquest. For military historians, the Battle of Hastings provides important lessons about the interaction of strategy, tactics, and leadership in determining battle outcomes. William's superior logistics, tactical flexibility, and personal leadership proved decisive against Harold's defensive strategy and traditional tactics. The battle also demonstrates the importance of timing and coordination in military campaigns. Harold's ability to defeat the Norwegian invasion and then rapidly redeploy his forces to face the Norman threat was remarkable, but the exhaustion of his troops and the compressed timeline ultimately contributed to his defeat. As we reflect on the Battle of Hastings nearly 1,000 years later, we can appreciate how a single day of fighting fundamentally altered the course of English and European history. The Norman victory established patterns of governance, culture, and international relations that would influence centuries of subsequent development. The battle reminds us that history is often shaped by individual decisions made under extreme pressure. Harold's choice to fight immediately rather than wait for reinforcements, William's decision to risk everything on a cross-channel invasion, and the tactical innovations employed during the battle itself all contributed to an outcome that transformed medieval Europe. The Battle of Hastings stands as one of history's most consequential military engagements, demonstrating how warfare can serve as a catalyst for broader social, cultural, and political transformation. The Norman victory didn't just change who ruled England, it created a new England that would become one of Europe's most influential medieval kingdoms. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of the Battle of Hastings and its profound impact on English and European history. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our Innovations and Inventions episode where we'll be examining the development of the printing press and its revolutionary impact on the spread of knowledge and ideas. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. What aspects of the Norman conquest or medieval warfare do you find most interesting? Let us know in the comments section below. For our members, this Sunday we'll have a special roundup of military developments from the past week with additional historical context and analysis. We'll explore how current military technologies and strategies connect to the historical evolution of warfare we've been examining. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.